And I'm actually, if you're comfortable, I'm gonna ask that you close your eyes right now so that you can kind of eliminate distractions and just imagine this with me. There is going to be this moment where we all die. You know, for me, it's, I'm gonna die and my brain will start shutting off and the light will start to fade from my eyes, and there's gonna be a lot of people here stuck on earth who are gonna be very sad that I'm dead. There's gonna be a few that are just pumped. But I'm gonna have this moment where like everything will go black. And my last thought is gonna be, all right, here we go. Father, into your hands I commit my spirit, like I'm trusting that you're gonna catch me on the other side of this death thing. And then everything's gonna go black. And then just like Jim talked about last weekend, suddenly I'll just go, I'll take another breath. And he kept his promise. And I'm not dead, and he didn't let me down, and I'm in heaven, and I get to spend eternity with him, and I'm gonna open my eyes, and I will finally get to see what Jesus Christ looks like, and I cannot wait for that moment. Every picture I've ever seen painted of him is a white American Jesus from Indiana, right? In this moment, I get to see exactly what he looks like. I can't wait. I get to hear what his voice sounds like. I want to know what his register is and like what the tone of his voice is. I know this sounds weird. I want to know what he smells like. My grandpa is dead. And when I think back on grandpa and I remember him, for some reason, the first thing I remember is the way that the smell of his 5 o'clock shadow like would mix with the smell of his coffee in the morning when he hugged me. I want to know what Jesus's beard smells like. I want to know what his hands look like. Like he was a carpenter. Does he have like hard, knobby knuckles? Like are his hands all beat up from all that really hard work? Like in this moment, I'll finally get to see him. And I don't know how eternity works, but I'm assuming I'm gonna spend the first chunk of my eternity just buried in that man's chest. A mess. Because let's say I live to be like 87 years old. That's 87 years of suffering. Probably gonna take me another 87 years in heaven, just wrapped up in his arms and buried in his chest to realize I don't have to suffer anything anymore. I'm gonna have that moment. You're gonna have that moment. But then here's what I like to imagine, especially when I'm taking communion. I like to imagine this moment where as soon as I'm able to kind of pry myself away from his chest and look him in the eye, he's gonna smile and he's gonna point behind him, and I'm gonna realize that there's been this table set up there, low to the ground, big feast on it, a couple candles lit. And I'm gonna realize that he is about to keep his promise. The promise that he made to me, the promise that we just read about together when he said that he would wait for me. When he promised that he wouldn't have that meal again until he could have it with me anew in his Father's kingdom. And we will sit down on the floor and we will recline on each other. And I will rest my head on his shoulder and he'll rest his head on my head. And then he'll pull out this bottle of wine and it'll have a label on it. It's gonna have like my family crest on it. I don't even know what my family crest looks like, but it'll be on there. And this label is gonna say Ben Foot. And then in tiny print at the bottom, it's gonna say aged 87 years. And he's gonna look at me and he's gonna say, I have been dying to drink from this bottle of wine, but I have been waiting to drink it with you. And this wine has seen a lot of suffering and it's seen a lot of pressing. It's also seen a lot of blessing, and it's just a really, really, really good bottle of wine. And he's gonna uncork that thing and he's gonna pour us some glasses, and I will have the best dinner I've ever eaten with the best friend I've ever had. And it will be the first supper of a long line of suppers that I get to eat with my King and my friend, Jesus Christ. I'm gonna pray and the band's gonna start playing and then we'll take communion together, but that's what I think about. And that's maybe what you should think about. When we take communion, we look back to the cross, the moment that our King put his full authority and power on display and he saved our lives. But we're also supposed to look forward to the moment that Jesus promised we would have, this moment where we get to enjoy a way better version of this meal with him in intimate friendship with our King. Our King died on that cross, and yes, to forgive you of your sins, and yes, so that you don't have to go to hell, and yes, so that you can have peace in your present and you can have hope in your future. But if you want to boil all that down, basically your King died with you because he wants to have dinner with you and call you his friend. Jesus Christ is not your distant emperor, and he is not your powerless wingman. Instead, Jesus is the King who calls you friend. And when we have this little meal together, we are forcing our hearts and our minds and our spirits to remember that.